We've looked at board games released in 2024 and we've picked our favourite 10 family games.
Hi, I'm Libby, this is Julian, and together we are BoxedMeeples. And yes, it's getting towards the end of another year, so we thought we'd start. And this year we're doing a series of Best of 2024, whereas previously we just did the 10 games, and that just seemed a little bit too tricky to do, didn't it? So this year, we're going to start off with 10 family games, and then we'll each do a list ourselves of our 10 favourite games that we've played for the first time that has been released this year. We've tried to, hopefully, we've got that right with BGG stats and publisher stats. Fingers crossed, they're all actually 2024 releases. And we've also kind of looked at these in terms of who's got what. Tried to not make crossovers between them, so we can actually sort of chat about 30 different games throughout the three lists, rather than sort of end up with them all on the same list, sort of all on everyone's list also. So there's been some interesting discussions as to who gets what, but that will be more when it comes to our lists. The family ones, I think we were pretty aligned with. Yeah. So yeah.
And as always with these kind of lists, remember, this is our taste. This is games we've played, games we've enjoyed with a family or just playing together. It's going to be different to your list. And if you do find there's some games that we haven't mentioned, why not put those in the comments down below and join in discussion of maybe some other 10 additional games ideal for family that have been released in 2024.
Yes, we would love to hear from you. And of course, I think our mindset for these sort of family games is that we play with your daughters. So we are thinking of more sort of children in mind. A lot of them do have an age bracket. Obviously, every child is different, so we don't necessarily take a huge amount of notice to the age recommendations. But I think a lot of these are also games that you could play with people that are new to the hobby. They're very welcoming games, so it doesn't have to be limited to playing with children or in your own family. You can sort of use them as great fillers as well. They're just great games.
So let's get into it. These are our 10 favourite family games in 2024. A game we first played at Essen this year, but a game that my daughters have affectionately called King Domino, and it's Zoomies. Now, it's not a criticism itself, because we really love King Domino. In fact, it's been on one of these ideal games for children in the past. But unlike building a kingdom, in this game you are placing dog tiles to try to build packs of dogs. On your turn, you choose from two of your cards you have, the little tokens, and you place them out, and on each of these little tokens are two dogs. So you've got to line them so they fill up and continue a pack. But every time you place one of these tiles, you are placing one of several different scoring tiles.
You are indeed. And the scoring tiles, I think, is where this game really levels up from King Domino. So in my opinion, this is a great step forward if you've enjoyed King Domino, but you've sort of maybe overplayed it a bit, or you want something a bit new. Because of these scoring tokens and the variety of choice you have there, I think that just adds that teeny little bit more complexity in that scoring.
Yeah, and there's certain ways that you could interrupt people's scoring and separate off the way they are scoring by merging different packs of dogs. And it's certainly the different placement of these tokens, as you know what people are scoring, really injects into the game as you're playing it. So there's quite a lot of thinking you have to do, and the final win conditions are very much at the end of the game. That's when it's revealed who the big winner is. And as you're playing, it's kind of hard to gauge who is actually doing best. I think the theme and the art itself makes it very appealing to children.
Yes.
Adorable artwork on this game, and let's face it, who doesn't love playing with adorable dogs?
I know, the Huskies are my favourite. So the next game we actually picked up at Essen as well. This was a Gen Con release this year, and it's based on a game, I think, from about 10 years ago called Alchemists. And this version is Little Alchemists from CGE. And the designer of Alchemists, basically his daughter was saying to him, "Daddy, I want to play your game with you. How does it work?" And he was sort of, it's a little bit too complicated. What should we do? So he designed Little Alchemists in order to be able to play with his daughter. And CGE liked it so much that they've now published that, and within it has these 7 levels of complexity, some sort of ways of going through, almost like a campaign sort of thing. But it does mean that it has a really sort of wide age group to be able to play with, because you can start quite young. I think it says 7+ on the box, but I'd even be tempted to go a little bit younger for the first couple of sort of versions of it, shall we say. Because as you play through, you unlock more stuff, and then the complexity gradually comes in and in and in. And of course, you can choose to just keep playing that same game at level 1, level 2, until your children are ready to then level up. Or if they are and they're coping with it really well, then you can just play all the way through each element, unlock all the fun jazzy stuff, and see what fun potions you're going to be making. And in this, you're sort of trying to do a little bit of deduction, which is interesting. So it's a competitive game, but between you're going to be working out what elements are making what potions, and this changes every game. So don't think that once you know it, you're just going to know and that's it, because you're also using an app on your phone. So whenever you make a potion, it generates what it's going to be doing that particular game. So it keeps you on your toes. And I think that subject matter is really fun and interesting. And of course, it's super fun to get these keys and be able to unlock boxes and find out what surprising stuff is inside there. And as I said, I think it works for quite a wide age group because of that, because you're gradually dripping in that complexity until you get to level 7.
Yeah, and I think the process of actually opening the boxes, you don't just choose when you do them. You have to get the keys and you have to earn the ability to open them. And because you're doing that so gradually, it doesn't feel overwhelming. Obviously, if you went all the way into the most complicated, I think it's kind of like a mid-weight kind of Euro by the end. By incrementally increasing that, it doesn't seem daunting. And if you just get a bit overwhelmed by one level, just step it back a level and find the one that suits your family. Now, Van Ryder, we know for their thematic, very dark, very intense games. But out of the blue came Gateway Island, which I think is a phenomenal game for families.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal game for people who haven't played many board games, because as the name suggests, this is almost the perfect gateway game. In fact, it's 21 perfect gateway games, because in this game are 21 kind of micro games. Each one involves a card or a set of cards and very, very simple rule set.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible how much gameplay is jam-packed into that box.
And for each of these games, they cover a kind of different genre of board games. So there'll be one that's teaching you kind of area control. There'll be some that's teaching you worker placement. There'll be race games. There's
Bidding mechanics.
There's even a massive epic quest game. So you can kind of learn how to play dungeon crawling. Each of these games are super simple to learn. And for every single one, there's even a video tutorial. So you don't even need to read the instruction book if you don't want to. You can just gather around, play the video, and then you'll know how to play. You're told how long the games are going to last. You're told how many players it's going to have. You're told what style of game it's going to teach you. And even better than that, once you've played the game, it suggests what games you can go on to next. And these aren't just Van Ryder games. It covers all sorts of different publishers.
Yeah.
So if you find one you really enjoy, you can go, great, let's now play the step up from that as a family. And also, we've discussed how brilliant this is just to take with you on a trip, a family trip. Because then in that box, you've got 21 different experiences. So you can just play through maybe a couple of those each night and have a different experience, all using the same components, all within a very, very small box.
Someone's decided they need some attention for this next one, and it's River Valley Glassworks. In this one, it's a really gorgeous looking game, and you have these wonderful little pebbles that are on the River Valley floor that you're trying to collect into your pool, and you're having to put the same colours up in columns, and on rows you'll have all the different colours, well, as many as you can fit. And depending on how you manage to position them depends on the points you get. So it's very, very visually obvious whether you're doing okay or not. But you're having to, interestingly, place a shape of a stone into the river in order to collect all the stones from either side of that area. So the ones that you choose can be really interesting, or you can refill your hand by picking from the lake area. And I think because it's so tactile, so lovely colours, such a visual puzzle, it works really well for families. It's also a great filler game, and I think the more and more that you get into it, the more the tactics come into the play, the more you start looking at what your opponent's trying to get, what they definitely don't need any more of, so you can push them into negative points maybe. But it's a very simple, very lovely game.
There's two things that can make the game Boop better. One, you can replace the cats with adorable dogs, and two, you can set it at Christmas, which is exactly what Boop the Halls is. We've talked
Not dogs.
No, no dogs. But we've talked about Boop quite a bit, and each time a new iteration comes out, what's often kind of forgotten is that you can still play original Boop with the new additions, both Spooky Boop and now Boop the Halls. But the big play mechanisms that have been added into Boop the Halls, I think, kind of elevate it significantly from the original Boop. Most notably, there's a slightly larger playing area. There's a little bit extra on each of the sides. It's amazing how much that adds to the tactics. And there's also a new mechanism in there where you can win the game by knocking your opponent's baubles off the tree, much like my brother's cat did when he dismantled and entirely tore down their tree trying to get the baubles off the tree.
Whoopsie.
We all know cats can do that.
They can.
Not dogs.
No.
But yes, I find every game of Boop so simple to explain. And what's great about the second and the third editions of Boop is once you've kind of got the hang of kittens progressing to cats and then getting 3 cats in a row, it's very simple to explain that. And it's quite easy to grasp that. You don't realise the complexity of what you're teaching until a few games have passed, and then it all clicks, and that's when you start getting really competitive. But having an extra rule set that you can then introduce after you've got the hang of all of that, I think is fantastic. So yeah, if you're to get any Boop the Halls is a good one to get, because I prefer the extra bauble mechanics to the spooky cat that you had in Halloween Boop. But any game of Boop, I think, is great for families.
Yeah, and I will say we wouldn't normally put a 2-player game on this kind of list because we're trying to play together as a family, but it's just so popular in this household, and we have Boop tournaments. So it made the list because of that. Our friends came over and introduced us to this game, Wandering Towers, and we ended up playing it several times in a row. And to begin with, it was before the children have gone to bed, and then afterwards we just kept playing it because it's so fun. And you're trying to get your wizard along to these different places, but the towers keep moving. And so we've sort of affectionately called it Where on Earth is My Wizard? Said with the slight tone of why can't I remember where my wizard is? And you have these different actions that you can take that allow you to sort of move the towers along, and you're expecting to then find your wizard underneath one to then maybe be able to move him again and get them round and get them into the tower. Each game is a little bit different because you have these different action mechanisms that get sort of shuffled into the game, so you'll be able to do slightly different things, which I think really keeps it interesting. But it's so fun trying to sort of, you look at someone and you know that they've moved a tower. You know that they've moved that tower because they think that they're going to reveal some of their wizards. But what they've actually done is reveal your wizards. Because you remembered where your wizard was. Point. You're like, well, thank you very much. And some of that banter that you get through this game of just not remembering where everything is as it's all moving around the board on everyone's turn, and different sections are going with, and things are getting covered up and revealed as you go. And yeah, sometimes you can get to a point that's like, I don't know where any of my wizards are. Oh dear, I'm probably not going to win this one.
Each of the kind of iterations never gets so complicated that it becomes alienating. It's always accessible for families, and I think there's a kind of a starting one which is much simpler, and you can kind of build it. But I guarantee by the end of it, you're going to go, by Dumbledore's sleeve, where is my wizard? Nunatak. It sounds like the residents of a convent going wild, but in fact, in this game, you are building an ice temple. Now, of all the many games we've talking about today, this one I think is visually the most spectacular on a table, and that goes a long way to engaging family members into wanting to play a game. Fortunately, the game is relatively simple to play, but one of those games with that amount of hidden complexity that really shines once you get playing. So in this game, you are placing ice blocks on certain points on a board to ultimately try to build the temple. And the placement of these ice blocks is important because you're going to try to do certain different colours set collection. There's various different ways you can score in this game, maybe by collecting lots of beasts of burden or by going up various temple tracks and things like that. But on top of that, you've got to think about area control and how the blocks you are placing are affected by different opponents. Because whoever has the majority of a 4 set, once you place the next level on, is going to score as well. And let's not forget that whoever gets to place the last piece on the temple also gets additional points. There's lots of various things you need to consider as you're playing it, not just where can you go strategically to get the most points on the board, but also how you're going to collect up those points and how you're going to get the cards that you know your opponents need to make sure they don't get them, to work out how you can magnify your scores as the game goes on. I do like at the end of this game, this big reveal of how those set collections has worked out, because often you think, well, I haven't placed in the best ways on the board. Someone's zoomed up the score track, but that can quickly turn on its head when you realise that you've got a lot of kind of multiplying cards you've hoarded as the game has gone on. Yeah,
especially if you've managed to pick up some of those elder cards, which actually improve the scoring of a few of those different types of set collection as well. So next up for me, we're going on a boat. And of course, I always love the boat games. And this is Captain Flip. This is a super simple game. So, I mean, I think it makes a great fun filler. I mean, I think we're edging into a time period and play that it almost feels a little bit party because it's so fun and silly as you're sort of either choosing to flip your card or keep the side that you've drawn, and you don't get to change it back again and keep looking and choose. That's the fun of this game. You see what you've got, you either place it or you choose to flip, which could be great.
Yeah,
could be great.
Usually is.
Could be dreadful.
Yeah.
And there's not a huge amount of spaces to fill up on your boat, so it's a very, very snappy game, and you're trying to maximize points, not get too many, say, gunners, for example. If you have too many, you just lose automatically. You want to get the guys doing the lookout. You want to, of course, get them to the top of the masts. You want carpenters in certain different positions. But all these cards are really obvious what you have to do with them. Yeah. It's quite clear. And what makes this game sort of even more fun is that within the box, you've got lots of different boats, which really mixes it up a little bit and gives you these different options to be able to play different versions of the game. But I think it's a really nice one for youngers, or a great sort of filler fun.
Yeah.
Fun boat times.
I do like the fact that this game ends once someone's completed 3 columns. So there is a case of being able to finish the game at a certain point, but you delay it to try to maximize some more of your score. There's, of course, pirate counting you can do when you can work out statistically what the chances are going to be, but the game is so quick that you're not going to be doing that a great deal.
No, and some of the cards are letting you gather your coins, your money, during the game, during play. Another one's are end of game options and scoring, so you've got to sort of keep an eye on both of those to have the most amount of cash at the end. With
Jess and Sean from Allies or Enemies to thank for this genius game that is Bus and Stop. Now, this is the first Saashi and Saashi game I've ever played, and it's such a simple, elegant game that it's super fast to explain, super fast to play. On your turn, all you're doing is choosing one colour you're going to collect, and all of those people of that colour are going to join you on your jolly old bus.
Yeah, it's a fun bus.
It's a great bus. And so you'd say you're choosing all the red cards. You'll get various tennis people, you get mums, you'll get business people getting on board your bus. And eventually you're going to want those people to get off your bus. They're going to reach the stop they want, and you can choose to take various people off the bus and score with them. The longer you go, the more people you try to get off your bus at one time, the more points you're going to get. But obviously, if your bus gets full up, you're not going to be able to get more people on the bus. In fact, you lose points by trying to make extra space for them. But what's really great is the skedaddle action, and not just because it involves the word skedaddle. So when someone say they score maybe, tennis players, which you have to do in sets of 2, because obviously playing tennis on your own is a bit dull. Once you score those, anyone else can get rid of one of that type of card. So that's how you can collect cards you don't want from the thing to get lots you do, but then find a way to get rid of them and still score for them.
Score them, yes. And you can score the old people as well.
They don't want to go far.
They're just there for the fun day out, so you can just immediately score them. So sometimes tactically, because you're holding out to get the thing that you want, you can try and pick up some old people and just straight score them and leave that space on your bus for next time.
And it gets so tense, because if you are trying to get a maximum score by having as many people of one type as you can, and then suddenly in the tableau there's none there to collect, what do? Do you then score what you have, or do you hold out that little bit longer? And it's so quick to play. I mean, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, you're done with this game, and you can then play it again several times, or you can then move on to another game. So it's a nice kind of warm-up introduction game that I think suits, any age of player.
Last up from us is a little bit of a surprise one. It's a Lego game, so wasn't really expecting very much. I kind of just assume that it wouldn't be a game.
No, there wouldn't be much depth to that.
But it's actually quite fun.
Yeah.
You have your different shapes of pieces of Lego, and you're actually putting them out on the board, creating this lovely monkey palace. So, I mean, I think between that and Nunatak, they are rivaling each other for that sort of presence of board by the end of the game. But you're needing to place arches along and sort of stairway your way across, mostly at right angles, to connect to other bits of the palace and get it going bigger. You're putting ornaments on there, and you're then gathering more and more cards to sort of engine build yourself to be able to gather more things at the end of each turn. So as the game progresses, you're able to do more and more and more, and that palace gets so impressive.
It does.
And you've got monkeys on there, and you've got plants on there, and it's interesting. There's a few little nuanced roles in terms of how you have to place, which I think really gives it that gaming element. You've got to place an arch at your highest
you
point.
can't.
It's got to connect to an existing part of the palace by the time you've finished your turn, and little bits and pieces like that really make it thinky in terms of how best you can do that. Can you make it awkward for someone to not be able to do that very effectively next time, in terms of the way that you build, maybe, and really just trying to maximize your points or your bananas by the end of the game. So each of the cards that you're sort of gathering and you're getting for having achieved different things, I've got banana points on them. So by the end of the game, you've gathered all these different bananas. But obviously, if you get more than 4 cards, you've got to choose which one of those you're going to cover up. And then what you're gathering then each turn from then onwards is then changing as the game evolves through as well. And you're trying to manage whether a card's really good points, but it's not really giving you much for in-game play, or whether something's really giving you loads of stuff to give you loads of options in the game, but it's not really giving you many end-game points. And when you're covering which of those up, and can you take more than one card so that you can take one of those high point ones that gives you nothing and then cover it immediately with something else that's going to help you score. But I think just building that structure, adding on those ornaments, the monkeys and all those things, it's just so much more fun than we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, having Lego on there, we kind of thought this is going to be light. But really, if that wasn't on there and it was called Monkey Palace, we would probably have been much more interested in looking at it and not have made this big discovery. But to many people, having Lego on there is actually really rather appealing. Lego is super popular, and just saying, do you want to play a Lego game, might attract someone who might not have wanted to play a board game. But a Lego game, meanwhile, yes, please.
Yeah. Right, so that's our first 10 list of 2024, our favourite family style games, or games that you can play with the kids, or welcoming newcomer games.
Yeah, obviously if you've seen any of these games that you want to get, a good place to go is your Funny Low game store. And for us in the southeast of England, that is Chaos Cards. And if you're shopping online with Chaos Cards, don't forget that in the description we have a discount code which will save you a little bit of money at the checkout.
We do indeed. And of course, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, we would really love if you would do that. Please do press that button, click the bell and all that jazz, and let us know your favourite games from this year too.
Yeah, but as always, thank you so much for watching.
Bye.